Our next guest that we have is Greg Burt. Greg Burt is looking out for the best interests of people in California himself. He's part of an organization and he's involved in the legislative process. I'm going to let him tell you a little bit more about that. And he's also in the pamphlet. So if you like what he has to say, you can leave that pamphlet that's in the information booth over there and get involved, get in contact with him, and advocate your interests. Let's hear it for Greg Burt.
I appreciate being here. My name is Greg Burt. I work for an organization called the California Family Council. And we are here advocating, watching this building, and making sure that your religious freedom rights are not violated. And so I have been working for the state legislators, several of them, for the last 6 years. And the last 3 years, I have been working in this building. And so today my speech is going to be based on the experience I've had there. Now I know you folks all are here because you love the Constitution. Is that right? What a privilege it is to have such a majestic document guiding and protecting our liberties. But did you know that the Founding Fathers still had concerns about the Constitution when it was first ratified? Specifically, Thomas Jefferson, he liked the document, but he said it had a serious flaw. Jefferson was a man who had no illusions about government leaders. He knew that history proved time and time again that unaccountable concentrations of power in the hands of a few eventually was used to oppress the God-given liberties of their people. So do you know what Jefferson's remedy was? His remedy was the Bill of Rights. He wanted a Bill of Rights placed in the Constitution that listed the liberties that legislators would be obligated to protect. So I'm here today to talk about the Bill of Rights, and specifically about the most important one, the First Amendment, and specifically how the First Amendment protects our freedom of religion and freedom of speech. Now, human nature has not changed much over the last 200 years, and religious faith and speech still need as much protection today as they did at the country's founding. Now, the legislators in this building have become drunk with power. There are supermajorities in both houses. They are now beginning to use their power to oppress the religious beliefs and speech that they don't like. Let's talk about religious liberty a little bit. Religious liberty is not just the freedom to attend your church of your choosing, or to live out your beliefs in the four walls of a building. The First Amendment promises to protect your right to free exercise of your religion in your daily and public life. Now, this also means that you are free to start organizations and businesses, nonprofits and schools of all kinds to promote and practice your religious faith without the government interfering. This type of freedom is unique in the world, and it is one of the reasons that immigrants have been driven here to our shores for the last 200 years. Now, many Californians, the California legislators, will say they believe in religious liberty and freedom of speech unless you disagree with them on two particular issues. Here's the issues: abortion and gender identity. Let me give you some examples. Religiously motivated citizens all over the state have created pregnancy care centers to offer services and help to unwed mothers who felt they had no other choice but to get an abortion. Motivated by love of these women and their unborn babies, they set up hundreds of pregnancy care centers offering free ultrasounds, prenatal care, emotional and financial support, in hope that these women would choose life and not abort their children. Now, NARAL, Pro-Choice California, and other pro-abortion rights advocates like the Planned Parenthood were upset that these clinics were persuading so many women not to get abortions. So 2 years ago, they persuaded a San Francisco assemblyman named David Chu to introduce AB 775. Now, this bill mandated that pregnancy care centers would have to post a big sign in their clinics advertising the availability of free government-subsidized abortions. This is now the law of the land. Now, just so you have this straight, the state is now forcing a private organization to advertise a government message that these organizations find abhorrent. Imagine a newspaper being forced to advertise a government-sponsored message under the threat of being shut down. This is a flagrant violation of religious liberty and speech. Let me give you a more current example. Currently, there is a bill making its way through the legislature that targets pro-life religious organizations, churches, and universities. Specifically, it hampers their ability to hire employees who agree with their values. So the bill is called 569. It was introduced by Assemblywoman Lorena Gonzalez Fletcher out of San Diego, and it was sponsored, you guessed it, NARAL Pro-Choice California. And of course, Planned Parenthood is a big supporter as well. The bill specifically outlaws religious employers from requiring that their employees adhere in practice to the group's religious beliefs about abortion or contraception. They are doing this under the guise of outlawing reproductive discrimination. But do you know that there is no way for a religious organization to thrive, or any organization for that matter, if it doesn't have the right to hire like-minded people? Sadly, this bill is flying through the legislature process and it's nearly approved. The next hearing is this Tuesday in the Senate Judiciary Committee. This bill is a definite violation of religious liberty because it dictates to a religious organization which values they can practice and which ones they can't. Okay, now comes the issue of gender identity. A new view regarding gender identity is sweeping the nation, and it's supported by legislators in this building. And this is it. Gender, whether you are a male, a female, or something else, should be based on subjective, personal feelings and not biology. At the California Family Council, where I work, our Christian faith motivates us to view every person in the Golden State the same way, created in God's image, worthy of unconditional love, dignity, and respect. But love and respect does not require agreement. We believe gender is something you were born with and should be accepted and celebrated. But that is not how the majority of the legislators in this building see it. There is no live and let live attitude among legislators in this building on this issue. Agreement and acceptance of their view will be required of everyone. It's going to be required of all of you. Just recently, California State Attorney General, in response to a law passed by state legislators, banned state-funded travel to 8 states because they have laws that define gender based on biology, or because these states have religious liberty protections for organizations who have a different take on gender and sexual orientation. Many California legislators are going to not let you disagree with them. Agree with us or you will be punished. That's their attitude. And I want to give you one example here of a bill that's going through this week that exemplifies that. On Tuesday, a committee is considering a first-of-its-kind bill here in California that would attach civil penalties to individuals who do not use the preferred gender pronouns of those identifying as transgender. SB 219 is sponsored by Equality California and authored by Senator Weiner out of San Francisco. The bill would specifically inflict penalties on anyone working in a nursing care facility or a residential care facility for seniors. We aren't talking about being forced to use female pronouns for males or vice versa. We're not just talking about that. There is a list of over 50 pronouns transgendered individuals are using these days to define themselves. Here is the problem. The government cannot compel speech from anyone without violating their free speech. Forcing someone to use a particular pronoun is forcing them to agree with your definition of gender. We cannot call our country free if we allow the state to do this. If you believe in freedom, that means you need to be willing to let people live their lives and raise their families as much as possible according to the dictates of their own conscience. You know, I want to live at peace with those identifying as LGBT. How about you? But each side needs to tolerate the existence of the other without using the government to persecute the different views. We all need to be willing to stand up for the liberty of each of us. That is what will bring us together. That is the value we can all unite around. So what do? The first thing we do is we stop being passive. That is what the people in the building have come to expect from you. They expect you to be intimidated by how much power they have. They expect you to see how outnumbered you are and get you all discouraged and have you give up. But you must change your mindset. You must be willing to stand up in a crowded room and ask the question everybody else is thinking but is too afraid to ask. You have to be willing to make a long-term commitment to holding your elected officials accountable. The problem is the problems in the state did not occur overnight, and they're not going to be solved overnight. And second, you must educate yourselves about the issues. Make sure you have the facts right before you speak. This will give you more authority, and the people will start trusting what you say. And third, you have to have your opinion out there publicly so people in your community can hear it. Politicians care about one thing very deeply. They want to be reelected. Consequently, they are only interested in what constituents in their own districts think about them. So spend all your efforts to influence your own legislators and encourage others to do the same. Most of these politicians depend on citizens being ignorant of what they do on a daily basis. You need to educate them. Demand political parties and candidates you support make defending the First Amendment, including religious liberty, a vital part of their messaging. That is not happening. You have a candidate for governor here, or should be here soon, Assemblyman Travis Allen. Tell him, this is what you need to tell him. Tell him you will not support his run for governor if he doesn't publicly defend religious liberty and the freedom of speech. If we are to remain a land of the free, we need to preserve the liberty of those trying to follow God as their conscience dictates, as long as they give the same deference to others and to those who have no interest in following God at all. If we really want unity, then we must unify around some common values. The respect for religious liberty and the freedom of speech are two values our republic cannot live without. I walk the halls of this building every week, and they are always filled with lobbyists trying to get the government to give them money or secure special favors for their particular interest group. If we want to change things, the halls need to be filled with citizens like you, interested in protecting the liberties enshrined in the Bill of Rights, especially the First Amendment. I hope your attendance here today will motivate you to get involved. Thank you for letting me speak and be part of this event. God bless.
Our next guest that we have is Greg Burt. Greg Burt is looking out for the
Majestic document guiding and protecting our liberties. But did you know that the founding fathers still had concerns about the Constitution when it was first ratified? Specifically, Thomas Jefferson, he liked the document, but he said it had a serious flaw. Jefferson was a man who had no illusions about government leaders. He knew that history proved time and time again that unaccountable concentrations of power in the hands of a few eventually was used to oppress the God-given liberties of their people.
Best interest of people in California himself. He's part of an organization and he's involved in the legislative process. I'm going to let him tell you a little bit more about that. And he's also in the pamphlet. So if you like what he has to say, you can leave that pamphlet that's in the information booth over there and get involved, get in contact with him, and advocate your interests. Let's hear it for Greg Burt.
I appreciate being here. My name is Greg Burt. I work for an organization called the California Family Council. And we are here advocating, watching this building, and making sure that your religious freedom rights are not violated. And so I have been working for the state legislators, several of them, for the last 6 years. And the last 3 years, I have been working in this building. And so today my speech is going to be based on the experience I've had there. Now, I know you folks all are here because you love the Constitution. Is that right? What a privilege it is to have such a